In this tutorial, you'll learn how to make a basic landscape. Open a new Blender project and delete the cube. I like to work in this perspective with the Y minus coordinate facing towards me, and I'm going to go Add Mesh Plane. When you add an object, you get a what's called a context menu, pops up down here, and here's where you can start to make some adjustments to the shape. So we're going to change the shape to 20, and that means it's basically 20 meters wide. So we're now going to go into edit mode. I'm going to tap tab to go into edit mode with the entire plane selected. Now, if you unselect it, and maybe you've just selected one of the vertices, if you just hit the A key, it will select all. So I'm going to now right click and choose this option subdivide. I'm going to choose down here that I want to divide this by 20 times. And what that's done is make 20 cuts across that way, 20 cuts across this way. So now what we're going to do is activate a tool or a function called proportional editing, and it's this function up here. So I'm going to click on that, and what that allows us to do is to make some adjustments in the shape, but we are able to also influence the space around where we're making those adjustments. So I'm going to go to vertex select or vertice select, and I'm going to just hold shift and choose about 4 different vertices around that plane. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts now. G to grab, Z, I'm going to align the movement to the Z axis. And then there's this circle that's in the middle, that grey circle. If I use 2 fingers on my touchpad and move them up, that circle gets bigger. Now, when I use 1 finger on the touchpad to move up those vertices, we can see that it's actually influencing that many vertices around the chosen ones. So if I increase, I'm using 2 fingers on the touchpad to increase the amount of influence, and I want you to play around with this until you get some nice sort of hills like this. Okay, that looks good. Don't have to go too extreme. You can do another couple if you'd like. So I'm going to choose 2 more, actually 3 more, and I'm going to go G to grab, Z to move them in the Z axis, but I'm going to just decrease the size of the circle of influence and move those ones up just a little bit, just so we get a little bit of variation. So they're going to be the hills in our landscape. Now what we're going to do is go to face select. And then for this, we're going to just go to sort of slightly bird's eye view, so just tilting it down that way. And I'm going to change the select box. I'm holding down that select tool, and then I can choose select circle. So this is a good tool to use if you want to choose lots of different things all at once. So I'm just going to hold and drag it through my landscape like this, and I'm choosing the faces that I will make into a little river. So I've chosen those spaces there. I'm going to just put that back to select box. So it's the same process as before. I'm going to go G to grab, Z to move this on the Z axis. I'm going to move it downwards, but I'm going to just change that area of influence a little bit so it doesn't affect too much around it. Okay, so that's going to be where a river will run through the scene. I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm just going to hit tab. And so that's our basic landscape. If I right click on that and say shade smooth, it makes it nice and smooth. Okay, so that's our land. We're going to now add another plane. Add mesh plane. It returns to, or it repeats the values of whatever you last changed a shape to. So the last one was 20 meters. This one's also 20 meters. This is going to be the water. So we're going to just move that down like that. So that will actually be the water that runs through the scene. Let's add some color to that. I'm going to change to material preview mode. When you click on this, sometimes it takes a minute for Blender to process that change. I'm going to go to Materials here and click New, and this also can take a minute. Select the color bar there and choose a green option. So once you've chosen your color, sometimes this color circle will go away by itself. Other times you just have to click outside of it to make it disappear. And we can change the roughness value of that color. So if we make it very, very rough, so I'm just holding my cursor over that value and moving it one way or the other. If we make it completely rough, that means that that surface will not reflect any light. However, if I go the other way and make it completely not rough, you can see that it becomes shiny. So it's supposed to be land, so let's make it completely rough. But what we'll do with the water is we will change it to be a little bit less rough, so it's a bit reflective. So I'm choosing a nice blue color for the water, and I'm going to make it a little bit more this way. So it's going to reflect the light a little bit and look a bit more like water. Okay. So at this point, you might not have saved it yet. Please make sure you are saving your file and keep saving your file continuously as you work. So now we're going to add some trees. So what we can do in Blender, we don't need to create lots and lots of trees for a scene like this, or lots of objects, depending on what your scene is. We can simply create one object, like a tree, and we can use what's called the particle system to spread those trees around the landscape. So we can make a basic tree. You should already know how to do that. One more thing we have to do with that tree, in fact, is change where its origin point is. So you can see when you click on a tool, like scale, for instance, or the move tool, the tool appears sometimes like in the middle of the shape or somewhere towards the center of the shape. What we need to do to make the next step in the process work is change where the origin of the shape is. We're going to change the origin down to the bottom of the shape, and that's easy to do. We're going to go back to edit mode. I'm just going to turn off the X-ray view, and I'm going to choose. So in mine, I've got vertices. I can choose this middle vertice here. If you've got faces, you can just choose a bottom face of your tree. I'm going to hit Shift and S. Shift S, and that brings up this menu where we can control basically the movement of the cursor as well as a few other things. So we're going to choose this option, cursor to selected. We're going to go back to object mode. Now I'm clicking on Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. Okay, and now that's just reset where the origin of that shape is. Okay, we're ready to add to distribute that shape across the landscape.